I have just finished reading The Odyssey. It's a riveting, fast-paced action-adventure, and I loved it. But it also surprised me in many ways too. Obviously, it's an important book and one that I encourage everyone to try out. And it's more than just an entertaining story. The Odyssey is what I would consider a foundational text of Western literature. It shaped the very notion of the epic journey and established narrative structures and archetypes that still influence storytelling today. The lone hero on a quest and the journey home. No concept resonates more deeply across human experience than the pull toward a place we belong, home. The word itself carries so much weight. It evokes ideas of identity and connection and purpose. For thousands of years across countless cultures, the story of the journey homeward has captured our collective imagination. We recognize in it our own deepest longings, our deepest struggles against forces that keep us adrift. So in the story, when Odysseus sets sail from the burning ruins of Troy, he thought his journey home would take weeks, but instead it would consume 10 years of his life, a decade of monsters and gods, of temptations and terrors, loss and transformation. But why does his story continue to resonate so powerfully 3,000 years after it was first told? Perhaps because we recognize in Odysseus something of ourselves, the part of us that yearns for home while simultaneously being drawn to adventure, the part that struggles between duty and desire, the part that must face external obstacles and internal demons on the path of becoming whole. Even now in the modern world, we see echoes of Odysseus everywhere. The hero's journey is, at its core, a path of transformation. We leave as one person and return as another. This epic is not merely an epic adventure tale, it's a map of the human experience itself. Before we go into the story and the themes, perhaps some background. Who was Homer? Homer is the legendary figure credited with composing the Odyssey and the Iliad, two of the most influential works in Western literature. Though scholars debate the details of his life, and some even question whether Homer was a single individual or a collective name for generations of storytellers, he is traditionally believed to have lived in ancient Greece around the 8th century BCE. Homer's epics were not written initially. They were part of an oral storytelling tradition composed in a formulaic poetic structure that made them easier to memorize and perform aloud. These stories were passed down through generations of bards known as aoidos, or singers, essentially oral composers who sang the tale during festivals and banquets and public gatherings, often accompanying themselves with the lyra. It wasn't until several centuries later, during the rise of Greek literacy, that the poems were finally written down, possibly in the 6th century BCE. Let's now talk about the poetic form of the Odyssey. I have another video discussing which version of the Odyssey to read for you, as some are translated into prose and others in verse form. My version here is in verse form, and I found it overall easy to follow and to understand. It also just happens to be a particularly beautiful publication as well. The poetic form of the Odyssey originally was to aid memory and performance. Homeric poetry relies heavily on formulaic phrases, stock expressions like the rosy-fingered dawn or wise Odysseus. These repeated epithets served both as poetic ornament and as mnemonic devices. They also reinforced character traits and themes in a consistent, almost ritualistic manner. Another important literary technique is ring composition or chiastic structure, in which themes or narrative elements are introduced, developed, and then mirrored or revisited later in reverse order. This helped the listeners follow the complex, non-linear plots and created a pleasing sense of balance and unity. There are some moments in the book where you are reading about a character saying, "Let me tell you my tale," and he begins to tell the tale that you have already just read about. One of the most fascinating aspects, and one that surprised me, is that the Odyssey does not follow a linear timeline. The story actually begins in medias res, or in the middle of the action. We first meet Telemachus, the son of Odysseus, now a young man struggling to maintain order in Ithaca while suitors devour his home and pressure his mother, Penelope, to remarry. This opening sets the tone of the story's deeper concern with legacy, identity, and the consequences of absence. Meanwhile, the gods debate Odysseus's fate on Mount Olympus. Athena, goddess of wisdom, advocates for him, while Poseidon, the sea god whom Odysseus offended, remains hostile. We then shift to Calypso's island, where Odysseus has been held captive for 7 years. Only after divine intervention does she let him go. It's only after Odysseus washes ashore in the land of the Phaeacians and is welcomed as a guest that he recounts in a long first-person flashback the full tale of his travels. This essentially is his story, that he is lost and traveling, and he's basically island hopping, and at every island there is a new adventure or a new problem that he encounters. His journey from Troy, the encounter with the Cyclones and the intoxicating Lotus Eaters, his imprisonment by the Cyclops Polyphemus, whom he blinds, earning Poseidon's wrath, his time with Circe, who turns men into animals, his descent into the underworld, where he meets the spirits of the dead, the cattle of Helios, which his men foolishly eat, bringing doom, and finally the loss of his crew and his long imprisonment by Calypso. After telling his tale, the Phaeacians help him return to Ithaca, disguised as a beggar. There, with Telemachus and a few loyal servants, he defeats the suitors and reunites with Penelope. This book is basically as old as they come. So where does it fit in a modern world, with a modern perspective? Is the Odyssey still relevant? To modern readers, the Odyssey may seem like a fantastical tale rooted in a world of capricious gods, sea monsters, and ancient customs. But at its core, the poem explores profoundly human experiences, the longing for home, as I discussed earlier. There is, of course, the timeless tale of the longing for home, the endurance of love, the forging of identity, and the struggle to reclaim one's rightful place in the world. Odysseus is not a perfect hero. He is cunning, but he is also often arrogant. He is clever, yet he is also flawed. His journey is as much about internal transformation as it is about physical travel. He must learn patience, humility, and emotional intelligence, qualities that still resonate with readers today. In many ways, we are all Odysseus, navigating strange waters, seeking meaning, and trying to find our own way home.